I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to our first edition of the Wawasee Wrestling Coaches Corner. I'd like to thank Coach Frank Baumgartner for coming on tonight and explaining to us how he feels about the season, maybe some prospects for the season, and some of the changes that we're experiencing due to the COVID. So, Coach, how are your practices progressing so far this year?
Really, it's been a lot of fun. You talk about practices, how are they progressing? Just bottom line, can we have them? And, with COVID, with how rapid things change, it's nice to be able to have practices. It's nice to know that we can have a season, at least at this point. We'll find out tomorrow. But, it's really refreshing that in a time when, so much uncertainty is happening and so much negativity is happening, that, we get back to a great activity like the sport of wrestling, and really just being around other people that are like-minded and that are working to achieve something. You can see the kids, you can see the managers, you can see the coaches just get uplifted as soon as they walk up these stairs. So it's nice just to be able to do it right now.
Well, it's got to be tough for a kid if he's got to sit out for a couple weeks with his weight management and things like that. I know you have a very strict guidelines that you have to follow with your weight management program. How's that progressing this year?
That's going to be interesting. Yeah, I mean,
that's a nice way to put that.
Yeah, we're just going to leave it at that. No, it's going to be interesting because you never know when we're going to lose, an athlete for 2 weeks due to quarantine. And one of the real frustrating parts about coronavirus right now is the contact tracing. Just, you don't necessarily have to do anything wrong, and you don't have to do anything wrong, and then you're out for 2 weeks. And it's just a different situation that we've never had to experience before. But we got our weight management certifications done here in the last couple of days. They went beautiful. We're set up very nicely for a good season as far as just how the kids are falling in line into a lineup, and we'll deal with the quarantines as they come. We'll deal with the weight management stuff as it comes. We've got plans in place for that. But I'm just glad we're not the only ones in this boat.
I think it's everyone is looking at the same thing.
Everyone, everywhere. Yeah.
Of course, some of the counties around have closed things down. Mm-hmm. I don't know if some of the other schools can even practice yet, such as Jimtown. Yeah. Are they even able to have practices?
I don't know about like Jimtown specifically. I think to the last of my knowledge, Triton, for example, was unable to do anything until December. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's where we're at. So I don't know. I mean, it is very much county by county and district by district. I have been extremely happy with how our corporation has handled athletics. I think it's been a very sensible approach. The high school has been virtual for a while now, but it's not necessarily because of positive coronavirus cases in the students. It's been because of staff issues. And if that's the case, that means the student population is fairly healthy, so allow them to participate. I personally think that that's a sensible approach, in this time. So, we're just blessed to be able to still participate, to still come up and practice and train. Even in the midst of all this, are we gonna have to shut down? I don't know. No one does at this point, and we're just gonna take the blessings that we have right now.
Yeah. How many changes or what type of changes has this caused in your scheduling?
So far, it hasn't caused many. We've had the Al Smith, the Mishawaka invite. That's been canceled over Christmas break. That's a real bummer for us. We enjoy that tournament, but it makes sense.
That's a very solid tournament.
It's the best one in the state outside of the state tournament. So that one's been canceled. Other than that, we have not had any scheduled cancellations yet. We have had an addition. We did add Belmont to the schedule December 23rd, so that'll be a really fun duel. We're also looking at adding a couple others. We're in talks with Garrett right now about adding a duel. We've been talking to Western to add a single duel as well. So we've got some things that we're still trying to build on the schedule, and it's going to be a work in progress.
Well, that's quite a that's quite an addition to the schedule. Belmont is the defending state champions in
Yeah.
2A, and I believe they're ranked number one this
Mm-hmm.
year in 2A. Garrett was state runner-up last year in 2A, and I think they're ranked number 2. Western, I think, is ranked top 5.
Yeah.
So, of course, Wawasee's ranked at top 4.
Right.
So that's a pretty good addition to your schedule if you can get the 1, 2, and 5 teams in the state on your schedule.
Yeah, and it's a real testament to where the program is right now as a whole, because we're excited to wrestle competition like that, because those teams specifically, we know it's just going to be a scrap. We're just going to have to wrestle hard. It's not going to be any dirty. It's not going to be like they only do this specific technique or anything like that. It's just good hard wrestling, in good respectable programs that are built right. So we're excited to wrestle them, but it's not just one way. I mean, they've been calling us as well, so they know that we're going to bring the same thing to the table. And there's been conversations, like with Belmont, for instance. I initially contacted them, and then their head coach kept initiating the conversation back, wanting to make sure that we got this duel set up. And same thing with Garrett is, he's been making sure that this conversation does not die, that they both want this duel as well.
That's a very positive reassurance for the people in the Wawasee community about the level that this program is competing on.
Right.
This level is competing, or the level that this program is competing at is state caliber.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Al Smith, which was canceled unfortunately this year, is the number 1 wrestling tournament in the state. 32 teams, and they're always looking to improve. So how does some of your other competition look this year as far as maybe like conference?
Mm-hmm. I mean, our number 1 goal each year is to win the conference. And it's been a while since we've done that. So that's our number 1 goal. So looking within the conference, last year we finished tied for second, I believe it was, behind Northridge. So they're always a team to beat, very, very solid. And, we got a lot of respect for them. So, they're probably the favorites on paper. Mishawaka's coming into the conference this year, so it'll be interesting to see. They had a really good senior class just graduate. It'll be interesting to see what they have, just throughout their lineup, how some of their younger guys fill in and their junior high guys move in. So that'll be interesting to see them. We lost a duel to Warsaw last year, and it was kind of surprising to us, but, they just out-wrestled us at the time. So, we've got some good competition within the conference still.
It's a good power conference,
Mm-hmm.
In many, many sports, but it is a good power conference in wrestling. Speaking of last year's graduations,
Mm-hmm.
you lost 5 seniors last year,
Mm-hmm.
Off a pretty good team. And what's the prospect of filling those 5 spots? I mean, they were consecutive spots.
Right.
So what's the prospects of filling those spots with quality wrestlers?
Yeah. So looking at those 5 weight classes, like you said, were consecutive, but they were all upper weights. And if we want to backtrack even a little bit further, the graduating class before that had quite a few seniors as well, consecutive weights in the upper weights. So in the last couple of years, we've graduated quite a few seniors from the upper weight classes specifically. So, we've got some rebuilding to do in those weight classes. We do feel comfortable with the guys that we have. Just like anybody else, any other weight class, it's all about improvement, and we've got to get better. But I think just keeping perspective on where we're at and making sure that we're just, we're building towards January and February. That's when the state series is, that's when the team state tournament is. So we've got a lot of things to build on between now and then, and it'll be exciting to see.
Well, the good thing that I've seen is a lot of these guys that are going to be filling in those weight classes started out in lower weight classes, and they're progressing with their weight up into those weight classes. So they're good, solid kids, and now we'll see how well they can handle the higher weights, which they're at.
Yeah. You look at a guy like Tim Short, you look at a guy like, Adam Lopez, Cameron Zimmerman, Wyatt Slusher, Josh Matney, plus some other guys in our upper weight classes, Eleazar, Chance Flannery, Braxton Mast. Like these guys, they're all fairly young. And like you said, they did start in lower weight classes when they began wrestling, and they've grown into a bigger weight class. And I think it's lending well to their development as a whole. But for the most part, what we've been able to do is really let's get a good grasp on the concepts we're trying to do, keep them simple, and get good at a couple things here, especially during COVID. Like, Wyatt Slusher, he's had to quarantine twice now between football and wrestling. And you never know when that time is going to come that you have to quarantine. So it's hard to build this continual training program through the entire year because just all of a sudden, right in the middle, boom, 2 weeks, you're gone. So it's a very different approach you got to take to a year like this. And it's, and it's going to lend to some different development in the kids, but, we'll see where we end up.
So if one of your wrestlers has to quarantine because of COVID, then they are on their own as far as their conditioning and workouts and things like that. They can't come here. So as long as the weather's nice, they could actually get some good road work in if they're not feeling sick or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, everything revolves around that last part is how are you feeling?
Yeah.
You're quarantined because you're close contact and, potentially could be sick. But if they're not sick, then they're, all these kids are pretty driven to be up here. I mean, it's a gladiator sport. It's a combat sport, so it takes a special individual to want to do this. So when they are home, we've got workout plans for them that they have access to for when they are home. Here's what you need to be working out on day 2, day 3, day 4, et cetera, to make sure that when you come back, it's not a complete rebuild of your conditioning and your technique and your strength conditioning, but it's maybe just a small little catch up. And let's get some technique that's crisp again.
So the coaching staff is involved with those athletes, even if they can't attend school.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just because they can't, attend practice or quarantine, that doesn't mean we can't make a phone call. So we're still in contact with them. We're still, they're still our guys. Even though they're not in the room those 2 weeks, but no, we have workout plans that they have access to. And, and that is an expectation that they are still getting better, even if they can't attend.
So when we go to tournaments this year, what has changed as far as how the tournaments are going to be ran, expectations, so on and so forth?
That'll be interesting to see because, it is ever changing. And yesterday looked very different than today. Quite literally, when it comes to our tournament, 2 days after Thanksgiving, they're on the 28th. So
and that's your first competition.
That is, yeah. So we're hosting our first competition. It's the November Super Duels that we host every single year. We have for, 35, 40 years, whatever it's been now. And yesterday it looked as though we were going to be able to have a capacity of 500 in the gym. Basically we would just have to mop mats between each duel, and that was going to be it. Well, today we've got brand new regulations,
of course,
and restrictions. So, we'll see. I've still got to talk to administration about what this looks like for our tournament specifically. What I would imagine is going to happen is we are limited to 4 teams. We could have a full Super Duel of 6, but the national guidelines stated this fall that anything bigger than 4 teams has additional guidelines. So we're like, hey, you know what? We'll keep it at 4 and we'll make it better next year. But just trying to make sure we can have a tournament. So we're going to have 4 teams, and my guess is that it's going to be very restricted on who is going to be able to attend the tournament. I would guess we're going to be at parents and guardians only per athlete, and obviously athletes, and it may even be restricted to only athletes competing. And then you got your table workers and your event staff and things like that. But we'll have to mop mats between each duel, which is not a big deal. Wrestling's pretty good about cleanliness anyway.
I was going to say that's pretty normal procedure.
Yeah. I mean, with all the skin infections that we can have and everything, it's pretty standard. So, nothing's real big there. We don't have to do a ton of changes as far as like hygiene goes. But, the protocol, it's going to have to take some time to really process what the governor came out with today. And we'll have to make all this public. But my guess is that we're going to have to limit it to parents and guardians of the competing athletes only as spectators. Now, with that being said, we're hoping to be able to live stream it, live stream the tournament to anybody so that they can watch. But, we're still working on that.
I see. So how's the club looking for the smaller kids?
Yeah, so another really exciting part is, that we can have club. That's something that a lot of programs can't do right now, and we're very fortunate that we can. So, Eric Leffler's been able to put together a really good club again this year. With our Wawasee program, we're still doing the 2 separate clubs, but we're all under Wawasee Wrestling's banner. And right now, we got Wawasee Wrestling Club is taking part. It's on Tuesdays from, I believe, 6 to 7:30. And it's up here in the high school wrestling room. It's really geared towards athletes who are new to the sport, who just need to get involved and see if this is something for them. Get up, learn some real basics, have fun doing it, and get active. We've seen anywhere between 10 to 20, athletes up here, elementary students. So that's been really good. Again, a blessing just to be able to do it.
Right.
And it's pretty exciting. The feedback we've gotten from the community has been outstanding with that. We are going to start up the Viper Wrestling Club here very soon. We'll see what that looks like with, governor guidelines and everything again. But that program is geared towards the more competitive athletes who have been involved in the program for a couple years, who are looking to go compete, and looking for a more intense type of a workout rather than just pure basics, to expand on wrestling techniques, et cetera, et cetera. So, as you can imagine, doing something on this scale where you have a full high school program, full middle school program, and then 2 elementary clubs, it takes a lot of people.
It takes a lot of people.
And it takes a lot of people who care.
Yes.
And we have a ton of great people. Cheryl Merchant, everybody knows her. She's been involved in the program for a long, long time, and she's not going to be visible this year because of coronavirus, but she's still doing a ton from home. And I just talked to her last night about it, and it's still so cool to have someone like her around. You got a ton of club coaches, Joe Salazar, Eric Leffler, Cole Warren. We've got a lot of guys that are involved. But it goes beyond just coaches and goes beyond just people doing paperwork. Like, it truly is the people in the community.
Right.
I got a call from a parent that was saying, hey, I heard Cheryl may not be able to work the tournament next weekend for your Super Duels. I'm available if you need it all. In the midst of coronavirus, they're saying, hey, I will still come and help, volunteer, free of charge, because I love the program. Like, that's great human beings, right? Those are what make this program fun to be around.
Those are wrestling people.
Those are wrestling people, and this is a wrestling town. So I've had my cup here a little bit. Ken Parrish has been making, some spirit cups for us and been able to sell those, and that's generating revenue for the program as well. He's donating profit back. So you can find that on our Wawasee Wrestling Facebook page if you want to place an order there. So he can do a lot of different things with those cups. Again, that was all his idea. That was not us going to him and begging him for that. He's giving back to the program. We got some sponsorships from local community businesses, community members. Dynamic Spine with Eric Leffler, Northern Lakes Insurance with Scotty Beasley. There was an automotive store at a Ligonier that was able to donate, and then the Syracuse Volunteer Fire Department were able to donate.
That's great.
Yeah, so just very different environments and different organizations are coming together to support the program, and it takes a community and it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a community to build a program, and it's not just 1, 2, or 3 people up here teaching kids wrestling moves. It's a community involvement. So we got a lot of good things with the program.
So my understanding is that when we have a tournament, we will not be able to have a concession stand. and that's a lost revenue stream for the club.
Right.
So if anyone can think of anything else, a good way to generate some revenue for the wrestling community, wrestling team, and wrestling club, why, please don't hesitate to bring that forward.
And I'll correct you on this one. At this very second, when we're recording this, we are able to have a concession stand of sorts. So something we're able to do. We're working on this. It won't be a full concession stand, but we'll be able to have some, some refreshments and some food there. But obviously it's going to be modified. But again, that's of this very second. The governor's guidelines came out today,
As
a
of right
couple
now.
hours ago. So we'll see how this progresses and see if we will or not. But at this time, yes. But when you start talking about let's have a concession stand, well, how many people are going to be there? You start having community members come in and you get a crowd, several hundred people, and that's great. All of a sudden, you can only have 2 per athlete that are going to be there for 4 teams. Maybe 100 people, maybe. So we're not going to generate revenue from a concession stand this year. And so yeah, definitely. We're looking to do some really cool things with the program. We've got a lot of history in our program, and we try and put it up on our banners. So we're collecting information, and it costs money to put that information back up, to put history up. So there's a lot of things that we still want to do with the program that require some revenue.
Yeah. Speaking of the program and the coaches involved, who are your coaches this year for the high school team?
Yeah, so this year we've got Jamie Salazar and Dylan Whitaker as our head assistants. We've got Kevin Taylor back at the high school level this year. And then Trevor Brown has been able to come back as well at the high school level. And then Raymond Torres and Garrett Stuckman. We're able to get them back and get back up here and roll.
So that's kind of a combination of the old-time Wawasee wrestling plus the new Wawasee wrestlers that have just graduated.
Yeah, and it's really cool because you start looking at just the different ends of that spectrum. You got Kevin Taylor was coaching in the '97 team, and then you've got Garrett Stuckman who just graduated last year. So we're really talking 2 ends of the spectrum. But it's a great group of guys that are all driven to help our student athletes and to do what's best for them in life, not just winning wrestling matches, but in life. And we all have our different ways of doing it, which I think really brings a lot to the table for the kids because they all know that we're here for them first and foremost, but it gives us an opportunity to relate to a lot of different personalities.
That's a lot of positive advantages there that the kids on the wrestling team, the wrestling program in general, benefit from, that maybe a kid who doesn't participate in an activity like wrestling, that kid never has that opportunity to benefit from that.
For sure.
So that's a great thing. So we've got, 10, 12 days before the first competition?
Yeah, today is the 18th. We compete on the 28th, so
So that's 10 days, plus there's the Thanksgiving break in there. So, hopefully we can live stream these. Hopefully you can all watch those and stay involved. I'd like to thank Frank for Coach Bumgardner for coming in and spending his time and doing this. I know he'd rather be at home hugging his little girls. So thank you very much.
Appreciate you. All right, wear your tough.